I know I shouldn't be doing this video at this wee hour at night. You guys, you cannot imagine what I've been through just to set up my studio again. Hi guys, welcome back to a new video. Today is not a full tutorial video on how I created this makeup, but I am going to provide you with a lot of information on how to actually create special effects makeup. Whether I did a good job or not, that's up to you to decide. I just had a really lovely time creating this Vecna Stranger Things, or partial pieces of his attire, if you will. So if you want to see me mumbling about products, silicones, this video will not be for everyone. But if you are interested on how to make prosthetic pieces like the neck piece, which kind of reminds me of the Lady Gaga meat dress, and this Vecna hand. Oh my god. So if you're interested in see how I made these ones, just keep on watching. My name is Tom. I am a makeup artist. I'm mostly a freelance makeup artist for everything that you can imagine that has something related to makeup, and I'm also a teacher in my own makeup academy at Tom V Academy. It's been a while since I've made a video, so if I stumble, yeah, I'm always stumbling and trying very hard to get my words out the way I wanted them to come out. Okay, so I never ever created like a full mask, or did I attempt to try and recreate some kind of character from a movie. I know I did some little cameos in the past for my Instagram, but it was like all papier-mâché. But this was like, I don't know. I really wanted to do it like next level. I really wanted to do a great job. But let's say expectations versus reality did not really meet. But I did have a wonderful time creating this. And I'm gladly going to share some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way, because I never actually did something that kind of advanced, in my opinion. So because I'm not a professional sculptor or whatever. I just took my monster clay. For the people that don't know what monster clay is well, basically this kind of a brownish, very rock hard, solid, waxy clay. You just warm it up into the microwave. I just do it in like a plastic container that's microwave proof, and it just melts into a liquid if you leave it long enough. But I do it like with an interval of 30 seconds, and it gets really moldy. No, it gets really moldable, not moldy. Yeah. It does smell a little moldy, but anyway. And you just can start to sculpt. I did have a plaster half head because I do have a beard most of the times, if not all of the time, and that's why I only have like a half head in plaster. I really did my best, and I worked for weeks, and I spent a lot of money, a lot of dough on the materials, kind of create or recreate this Vecna prosthetic makeup. So it was a little bit of a shame that I could not do the whole face, just because, yeah, impulsive as I was, I just wanted to start. The other night, like 6 weeks ago, I started to sculpt with my monster clay. Here you have the monster clay as I film it. So this is actually the finished piece. I just sculpted pieces onto my plaster head. I had 1 or 2 picture references. It's this one. So the very blue one and very dark, and then I had this other one, which was a little bit more detailed. But anyway, I just sculpted it like this model. This was like the beginning of the sculpting process. It's not as detailed as it was in the end, so I just made like the rough form. Then I started to add some little detail with just some sculpting tools, just what I had at hand, because I do not have a lot of these things, because I don't sculpt a lot. Maybe I used these ones just one time to create this sculpting thing that I made, or this prosthetic pieces. And then I ended up with this more detailed sculpting of this Vecna mask, like eye mask. I built the monster clay really big and thick, up to the nose, because I really wanted to like create this triangle shape, or whatever shape it is, of his nose. And I wanted to make it as flat as possible, because I know in the actual prosthetic makeup they kind of make it magically disappear with CGI afterwards, so you always can see the tip of his nose. They just painted black, but I would just wanted to build the product, or the monster clay, bigger, so it was like level with my nose. So basically that was the first part. I never made a mold out of a prosthetic that was not like flat on the table. Normally when I make like prosthetic pieces, I just make it flat on the table. I just pour some silicone or plaster on top of it, and I have my mold. But for this one, because it was really built onto the shape of my face, I really needed to kind of mold it on top of this. I didn't have the patience nor the time to actually wait and build these crazy molds, where they normally build some like barrier things around the face, and then just slightly slack some silicone on top of it. So I went to the guys of Art Supplies on web. This is like, it's a website where you can buy a lot of special effects supplies. And luckily for me, it's like a 10-minute drive in my car, and they always assist me very well. They suggested that I could make the mold out of the silicone W22. So silicone W22, it's just like a silicone, comes in 5 kilograms. It's expensive. This W22 is no silicone that you can use for your actual prosthetics. You can only use it to make the molds, not for the pieces that you're actually going to apply onto your skin, because it's not that skin safe. But to actually make it, and it was a really good idea of them, so I just applied a thin layer of the silicone onto the mask. And afterwards, you can add some Thixo 3011. You just pour a little bit. I think you can use like up to 3% of the weight of your silicone, or 5%. You can mix this into the silicone, and you end up with this thick kind of paste, like you see here, that you can easily just like layer on top of your prosthetic or your sculpt, and you can really build it up without it like drooling down of your sculpt. So that was really handy. It also dries very fast. You actually end up with something like this. I don't know if you can see it at all, if it's not burnt out because of the light, because it's very white. But you end up with something like this. Of course, this alone will not be hard, or will not be sturdy enough to kind of keep itself into place. When the silicone was dry, I just applied a layer of plaster, so that I have like a harder rock, or a harder shell, an outer shell for the silicone. And afterwards, I just had this really cool negative mold of the mask that I made, and I just poured some Platzil silicone. It's a silicone that's meant for prosthetics or makeup prosthetics, and you just pour one part A and one part B together. I also did some silicone pigments to it in the color flesh. You just pour a few drops in it. And I also added deadener, so silicone deadener, just to make the silicone really soft and so that it kind of moves along with your skin. The more deadener you pour into the silicone, the more elastic it will be. The sculpting and the monster clay, you need to remove this off of your original face cast. If you ever do this, you just need to like cover and protect wherever you work, because it will be a little bit of a mess. So you just pour your silicone into your cast here, and I just took my original face shape cast, life cast, into the silicone like this. You press it real hard, so silicone will drip out of it. All of the excess silicone will like kind of disperse or just run out of the sides. It's really messy. It came over the sides here and there, so but it's fine. You can just easily peel this off when it's dry, and you just let it dry. And I just ended up with this piece, and I was really satisfied with it. Okay, one thing I forgot is in my mold, I did apply some super boldies just to like encapsulate the silicone into this material. If you don't know what super boldies is, I used it as well in my video where I made a prosthetic, Maleficent silicone prosthetics. You can watch it here. So yeah, this is kind of an essential product when you are creating some silicone encapsulated prosthetic makeup pieces. So this was that for the face mask. I only started to work on the neck and the hand because I really wanted the hand, because his hand is so iconic already by now. Started working on the neck and the hand after the second part of season 4 came out. And by then, a lot of material surfaced on the internet, and the hand, you guys, was something else. So as you can see here, it's like a really long fingers, big hand, monstrous. I've heard the guys tell that actually the hand was inspired by Freddy Krueger's knife hands, fingers. So basically what I did, I just made a mold out of alginate. Alginate is just like a powder. You mix it with water. But anyway, I just made this tube kind of thing out of plastic and a lot of like Tessa tape. I stick my hand into the alginate, let it dry, and then I made a plaster hand. The thing is with fingers and plaster is really not that strong actually, and especially not when it's not fully hardened. Like maybe if I would have waited a few days before removing the alginate, then probably this would like end up a little bit better, but because you kind of move the alginate and you kind of try to rip it apart off of your plaster hand, you just break the fingers very easily. And I was thinking like, okay, if my hand, I did save the fingers, I'm going to make like a little artwork out of this one, I don't know. I was thinking like if the fingers break so easily of the plaster hand, then it's probably not a good idea, because I'm going to sculpt really big fingers onto the plaster hand. I have to make a mold out of this again, and it's gonna snap very easily. So then I went to the guys from Art Supplies on web, and they actually told me that I could use polyester 26/71 SL, and I made a new cast out of alginate with my hand, and I kind of poured this polyester in there. It's a really smelly thing. It's a very familiar scent for me, this polyester, because my father is actually like a sculptor. I recognized the smell from when I was younger. So that was a nice sentiment when I was making this polyester hand. So then I actually came up with this polyester transparent hand, which came out very well, very strong, dries and hardens very easily. It does tend to be a little bit sticky, so you need to like put baby powder or talc on top of it before you start sculpting with the monster clay again on the hand. I think the hand turned out very well. How am I going to make a mold out of this? Because the fingers were so long, they were so big. It was something like that. This was actually the hand that I wore in the video. There's like iron wire inside, but normally they were like straight, so they were like very long. So, and if you put like, I don't know, if you make a mold out of this, you cannot do it like in one piece, because if you're going to like pour silicone in there, you have to pull it out of the mold. It will easily, like, the fingers would probably rip. I didn't think it was such a good idea just to like make it the same way as I did with the face cast. What I did, I made a box like you can see here out of wood around the hand, and I poured plaster into the box, just half. I just measured first till what level that the plaster needs to be to like cover half of the hand. So then I poured all of the plaster into the box, pressed the hands like gently into the plaster, so it's only like halfway there, and then I let it dry. After that, you just like spray a lot of Vaseline on top of the plaster. It dries in a few hours, so you can like work fairly fast. I just poured Vaseline. I sprayed mold release spray on top of it. It's like a polymer spray wax release agent, just because I know if it's stuck, it's stuck, and it's really hard to get it like separate. But this normally plaster does not adhere to plaster that's already dry, but it does take like shapes and forms very well, so it kind of could get stuck on each other without release agent. So that was really important. And then I just made some holes to make like some keyholes. As you can see here, I just like scraped some plaster out of the plaster that you see there, just with some tools, and then also did a lot of Vaseline in there, and I just poured plaster on top of that, and then I had these two halves of this mold, which is really cool. I did have some air bubbles in there here and there, so you can try to fill them up with maybe monster clay or something else, but I didn't mind it because the hand, it's supposed to be gross anyway, the hand, so if there's like some bubbles or bumps, I don't really care. So I did the same process. I just filled the half of the mold with silicone, with like really runny and liquid silicone, and the other half I just did a little bit of thick sew with the rest of the silicone, and I just like pasted the silicone into the second half of the plaster mold. I took my polyester hand without the monster wax on top of it, so just my hand, my form, and I pressed it into the silicone. I took the other half of the plaster, closed the mold, closed the cast, and I just put some really heavy boxes on top of this, just to make it really squeeze together. And it actually worked very well. In the beginning, I just had this. The fingers were like separate because I did not do any silicone on the hand itself, or I did not build any texture with monster clay on the hand. I should have done that actually. I don't know why I didn't, but afterwards I noticed that silicone does adhere very well on each other even if it's dry. So when my fingers were done, I just set the hand on this little display, so the acrylic hand, and I just did a lot of thick sew gel, and I just built this kind of a glove thing onto this kind of shape, and this kind of gave me a really easy form just to where I can slit my hand fairly easy into the silicone glove. It did ripped open here. You can see that in the video if you really pay close attention as well. But I still think it's very cool. Oh, also I forgot to say that before I closed the mold, I put some wire in there so that I could easily pose the hand. So when I moved it, the fingers were already a little bit more bended, so that gave a little bit of a more of a natural look to the hand. And then for the last part, the neck itself. So this was the neck. I did not want like the really big thick neck with all of the things hanging out there, but I did want something that was kind of inspired on the Vecna neck. This kind of reminds me of the meat dress of Lady Gaga. Could be a nice art project for the future. But I just sculpted this, as you can see, just on a flat surface. I did measure my neck. I just took some foil here. I just drew with a marker where the shape is. I just started to sculpt the neck piece on a flat surface. When the sculpt was actually laying flat on the table, I just poured silicone on top of it, and again I poured some plaster on top of that. I did press like a wooden plank on top of that, just so that I had like a flat surface if I turned it around, just to fill it up if I wanted to fill it up with silicone, so it would like level more easily. And then I had to color it. I kind of liked the face piece a lot better when I did not colored it before. So if I could give like an advice, because in the end, silicone prosthetic pieces, you will want to first of all spray or just brush some super boldies on top of your pieces, so the paint adheres a little bit better and distributes even a little bit better. If you don't do that, actually just the silicone itself, like with this, I did not put super boldies on top of it, and you see the paint easily came off of or comes loose off of this very easily. On the face sculpt, I did do, you can see it on my hands, it really comes off very easily. Here I did do a lot of super boldies on the face thing, and here it kind of stayed very well. So you will need an alcohol activated face palette, and this one is from Skin Illustrator SFX, and I just had like the basic colors I just mixed and matched. You just take isopropyl alcohol, you spray it into the paints. You just take a brush and just swirl it around, mix your colors. You can dilute it if you put more isopropyl alcohol. I kind of put isopropyl alcohol here in this part, just took a little bit of paint, mixed and matched like this until I came out with the right color, or what I was thinking, what was the right color. If I would do it again, I would probably take more time to paint, because I painted this very fast. Like I don't think I took an hour. I just did like a kind of reddish, brownish base, and then added details with black, dark browns, white. The whole point of coloring these pieces is to work as translucent as possible. Just like work in really thin layers, and layer on top of thin layers, and don't overdo it, because this one looks more like a cartoon now than it looks like a realistic piece. So that's my only regret, I guess, is that I just painted it really fast. I think the neck is painted a little bit better. I still think I painted it fairly fast. I know I started with the neck and I built it up, the neck colors or the paint of the colors a lot better. You can actually see the difference. It looks more realistic, this one, and whereas this one looks more like a cartoonesque thing. Oh, and I also made this one. I just had some Platzil silicone left in my container and I just sprayed it on a plastic foil on top of a table, and just really roughly, and I just painted it so I could easily, if I was wearing the hand, I just did this on top of my hand just to cover my arm a little bit. That was it. Anyway, here's an overview of my pieces that I made for the Vecna. Let me know what you think. Do you think I did a good job? I think I did a good job because I'm not used to making these kind of things. Anyway, it took me a while to make it. It was a few weeks in the making, and also a lot of money, but a special thanks to our suppliers on web to give me the right information. And also, it's not sponsored, obviously. I did pay a lot of money just to get all the right materials. And I just wanted to make, I don't know, just like a quick video, just like some explanation on how I did it, because I'm pretty sure some of you don't know anything about making these things will maybe learn something out of this video, or learn something out of my mistakes. I don't know. So let me know in the comments below. Do you think it's ridiculous I spent so much money on making some of the more expensive silicone mold? So that's it for the video today. Also, you would actually think that my setting would get better over the years, but it's not, obviously.